Tonight we're doing a reading of the first chapter of Shifty's War, and I'm a little rusty, but I hope I can do some justice. Do it some justice at least. So, I guess let's begin. Shifty's War, Chapter 1, General Taylor's Lottery. Austria, 1945. By my 22nd birthday, I'd killed 8 men. 8 that I was certain of. 8 that I could plainly count. That information was stuffed deep within my gut. If anyone ever asked if I had killed someone during the war, particularly if a child ever asked, I vowed I'd shake my head no. That information was never coming out. Less than a month after my birthday, war was declared over. Everybody drank a lot of champagne. Then this weariness set in. Everybody just wanted to go home. I think it was weariness we were feeling. Anyway, it was hard to rightly put the feeling into words. Frustration, maybe. Like everybody else, home is where I longed to be. I wasn't heading stateside soon. Man needed 85 points to be discharged from the Army. And though I'd trained at Toccoa as one of the original men in the company, served every day on the front as a rifleman, scout, sharpshooter, in every campaign from Normandy forward, I didn't have enough points. I was missing one piece of important battle experience when it came to armor thinking. Maybe it was a special angel looking over my shoulder, don't rightly know, but I had dodged all bullets aimed my direction. Unlike most men in Easy Company, I had no Purple Hearts. In a company that had suffered 150% casualties, I was an acute rarity. See, I had never been wounded. Wasn't complaining, mind you. Wasn't talking to anybody about the trouble I felt. Come war's end, we was pulling occupation duty in Zelmsee, a middle-sized town in Austria, near the foot of the Alps. Fine country to be soldiering in. No one was doing much work no more. Some running maybe, some drilling to keep us sharp. It was a beautiful place, truly, with that glassy lake in the center of town. Why, shoot, compared to the aggravation we just fought through, the place we now stayed made a fellow feel almost light-hearted in spite of his weariness, as if he was relaxing on his front porch after a hard day's work. Not even the Krauts felt like stirring things up much. Most days you'd see enemy soldiers hike out of the Alps and surrender to Allied troops, Came down by the hundreds, all hungry and beat down. Such a far sight from the killing. Fussing we'd just been through with them. A lot of these soldiers, well, I've thought about this often. That man, I might have been good friends. Might have had a lot in common. He might have liked to fish. Might have liked to hunt. Of course, they was doing what they were supposed to do, and I was trying to do what I was supposed to do. But under different circumstances, we might have been good friends. When they surrendered, we set a couple guards on them, fed them. That was how it was for us come to the end of the war. Now it's funny how passing through a heap of combat draws your outfit tight as brothers. I guess some of the fellows in the company got to grumbling among themselves on my behalf. The High Points men only had about 3 weeks before they go home. But me, well, might be another 6 months or a year, maybe even more. Rumors floated around about us joining the fight in the Pacific. And I was never one to skirt duty if it came to that. But it was just the same as not. Hopefully that war in Japan soon would be finished too. I'd surely rather go home now and not later. I'd seen enough gore to last me forever. Those same fellas must have been fussing loud enough for someone important to hear, because one sunny afternoon, Captain Spears led us in a troop formation near the town square. And I noticed one or two old-timers with unmistakable twinkles in their eye. Wasn't no doubt something was up, but I couldn't rightly say what. Such a fine day it was that same afternoon, early June 1945, when all 140 of us in Easy Company assembled in the square. Most fellows didn't even recognize anymore. Replacements, they came in when one of us got wounded or killed. Try your best to pair up a replacement with one of the older men. A fellow who'd been seen combat already made it to the other side. If you made that pairing, well, you might get the replacement used to what was going on. He might get settled in, might even make it. It was easier said than done, though. You know, I know a few old-timers got so they didn't even care to learn a replacement's name. As soon as you did, why, you turn around, the boy's guts would be bleeding. He'd be screaming for his mama. After it happened more than once like that, well, you needed a certain wariness of who you became your friend. 3 platoons formed a half circle around Captain Spears. He barked out the usual company platoons, "Attention!" and the stamp of our boots and clack of our rifles echoed off to the cobblestones. Bordering the square was a manor and a steeple church. And when Captain Spears growled "at ease," echo wasn't as noticeable then, and we stepped apart and shook our shoulders a bit. General Taylor is aware, Captain Spears called out, that many veterans, including Normandy veterans, still do not have the 85 points required to be discharged. On this anniversary of D-Day, the General has authorized a lottery to send 1 man home in each company, effective immediately. Well, now, several men gave low whistles at the good news. A fellow to my side swallowed loudly, his throat dry from possibility. Lieutenant Harry Welsh, a gutsy scrapper, and our unit staff officer, fished his fingers around in an outstretched helmet filled with slips of paper that each bore a man's name. Lieutenant Welsh paused, leveled his eyebrows at the helmet for a moment, smirked, I guess, then handed his chosen slip of paper to our commander. Captain Spears unfolded it and read the name slightly to himself, then straightened his shoulders, his expression unchanged. We all leaned in, listened for the lucky name. I noticed a calm breeze stirring the early summer leaves of a beech tree to my right. Somewhere up on the forested hillside behind the manor came the high-pitched dee-dee-dee-dee-dee call of a grouse. "Come on, come on, come on, come on," a man behind me muttered. For Easy Company, Captain Spears drew his words out for emphasis. "The winner is serial number 313066266. Sergeant Darrell C. Powers." Now, his voice rose like a radio announcer as he said the last part of my name. Captain, now mostly for his fearless and killing ways, must have had a softer spot to him after all. Cheers erupted from the men. Lieutenant Welsh's smirk had turned into an undisputable laugh. "That's how it's done, Shifty," someone hollered. I think it was George Luz, fellow everybody got along with, and who did a dead-on mimic of anyone. Bill Randleman, bear of a man, and a fine soldier, grinned from several rows over and looked like he wanted to slap my back. "Congratulations, Shifty," Randleman bawled. It couldn't have happened to a better man. I shook my head in disbelief. I had won General Taylor's lottery. Home. I needed to let that sink in for a minute. A slight smile spread its way across my lips. Me, Shifty Powers, I was going home at last. As soon as the formation was dismissed, 2 replacements ran up to me and grabbed my arm. "I'll give you $1,000 for that trip home," said one, all breathless. The other looked like he'd do the same. Wasn't no doubt they was serious. A few men won heaps of money gambling and such, and well, it was true. $1,000 would have meant a hill of money to a fellow like me. But it didn't need to roll that decision over in my mind before I shook my head and said, "No, I think I'll just go home." So that was that. One of the old timers, Sergeant Paul Rogers, strolled up just as the replacements were leaving. Now everyone called him Hayseed. He smiled, as big as a sunrise, shook my hand. He was one of my best friends in the company, still alive, and I'm mighty glad he made it to war's end. I don't know what to say to him except, "Shoot, Paul, I never won anything in my life." Hayseed smiled even wider, shook my hand harder. "We all wanted this for you, Shifty." His eyes bore that same twinkle I had seen early in some of the men. Handed me an empty duffel bag like he had been preparing for this, and added, "Come on, I got something to show you." Hayseed was our platoon sergeant, a man tasked with caring for the soldiers nearest him. I didn't have much gear to gather up, not much souvenirs from combat. Back when we went through Burkus Garden, I swiped one of those big red banners of Hitler's with its black swastika. Didn't know what I'd ever do with that big old ugly banner, but I figured I'd find like that was something a down-home fella like me didn't come across every day. It's about all I had. We started walking. I guess Hayseed was just leading me back to the barracks to help gather up my gear. But soon we turned, headed toward a supply building a few streets away, where I'd spotted comings and goings. A single guard nodded to us when we reached the door. He rattled the lock, let us in. The building was windowless, pitch dark inside. Hayseed switched on the overhead light, and I grasped. "Now, Shifty," he said, "you go pick out whatever you want." Dadgum, if there wasn't a whole room full of them, confiscated from the Krauts, stacked in boxes and lying on shelves, filling the floor, guns, heaps of guns, mounds of guns, rifles, pistols, carbines, shotguns, and submachine guns. A grin spread wide across my face. I figured it would make a fitting going away present for the best shot in Easy Company, Hayseed said, handing me the duffel bag. "Oh, no," I said. "Step forward. You're forgetting Buck Taylor. He's a much better shot than I ever was." "And Earl McClung? That's for sure best in the company by far. Now, back home in Virginia, you know, my daddy, now, there was a man who could shoot. Daddy was an excellent shot. Yes, he was. That man could shoot the wings off a fly." "Just fill your sack, Shifty," Hayseed said, but he wasn't aggravated, not really. I chose pistols, easiest to carry, I reckon. I'd already be taking my M1 home. Didn't need the extra 9 pounds of another rifle. It was just pistols then. 10, maybe 12 went to the duffel bag. Fine pistols. Best find collection, I spotted 2 .25 automatics, match sets, pearl-handled, mighty fine pistols. Next to them lay 2 shoulder holsters for the pistols, one for the left, one for the right. I strapped those pearl-handled pistols directly on under my uniform jacket and beamed like I was getting ready to eat one of my mama's homemade chocolate pies, my favorite dessert. Truck's leaving soon, Hayseed said. Better shake a leg. He shook my hand again for good measure. I nodded. Wasn't no time for saying proper goodbyes. I think we both knew the limitations of a man's words at a time like that. For he swatted me on the shoulder, grinned wide again, and I knew again that was how we said goodbye. Hayseed walked back to join the company. One more thing was needed before leaving, though. I needed to ask a question. I knew what it was. Didn't know how to coax that damn question out of me so it made sense when I asked it. It sprung from a particular feeling that had been gnawing on my insides ever since the war was declared over. Really, I'd been feeling it longer than that. But the war's end made me realize I was going to need to get it out of me someday. Maybe sooner, maybe later. It was rammed in my craw like a stuck piece of cornbread. That's when I held it tight. So I reckon if any man would know the answer to that question, it would be Major Dick Winters. Major was quartered some streets away in an officer's housing. Upstairs, through the drawing room. Guard said when I knocked on the door, wood floors made nary a creak as I padded up. Major sat outside on the drawing room's balcony. He was framed with sunlight, in contrast to the dark drawing room through which I glimpsed him at first. As I walked toward him, I noticed he worked at a small desk he had carried out there for his paperwork. Now, a glass of drinking water rested on his desk. Far behind him, afternoon mist lay hazy and warm on hills overlooking the lake. Major Dick Winters was with us in the beginning, back in Camp Toccoa, when we started training 3 long years earlier. He was a regular officer, a lieutenant, and platoon leader in easy company. Maybe 40, 50 men in his charge. Fought shoulder to shoulder with us, led us all through Normandy, where he became company commander. He was there in rain and wind of Holland, the snow and blood of Bastogne, shelling and muck of Hagenau. The higher brass all saw what an admirable leader he was. All the time he rose through the ranks, swift as a hawk taken off from its perch. By the time we were in Austria, he had replaced Colonel Robert Strayer as commander of our battalion. Major Winters was now responsible for leading some 700 men. Don't mean to interrupt you, sir. Just want to say goodbye. Major concentrated on the chart in front of him. He finished what he was reading, stood and nodded at me. You know, sir, I searched for words. I tried again. I stopped, listened. Somewhere to my left, water burbled from a creek. I decided to try again. Well, it's been a long time. It wasn't nearly the point I was trying to get across. Major set down his pen on the table. Got everything you need, Sergeant Powers? His voice was unruffled, steady as it ever was. Yes, sir. Gathered up my loot, pistols mainly. Paperwork will be done soon. I'll get my back pay when I get down to headquarters. Major's head gave a slight tilt to one side, inviting me to say what was truly on my mind. I shifted my dress cap from the right hand to my left. Well, back home in Virginia, I began, then wobbled at my knees. A thought flew through my mind. It unfolded all at once, over and done with quicker than a hair trigger's pulled. I'll try to lay it all out for you here so you can see how my mind was churning just so. Was that image of the water glass resting on the major's desk that jumbled everything. That water, so clean, just sitting there any time a fellow felt like a sip. Well, it sparked a recollection of a time Easy Company was holding the line at Bastogne. We was completely surrounded by Krauts, all freezing in the snow, hungry, cold, dirty, smelly, scared. Near our foxholes lay a frozen creek. We'd chop it for water. You seldom had a chance to light fires from ice melting. Surely never when the Krauts see you. So our throats are dry most way through Bastogne. Now, this particular day, the thirst got the company real bad. You know, old Wild Bill Garnier, Babe Heffron are talking. They're two of the toughest men in Easy Company, and Bill says, "Babe, pick up that jerry can over there. We need to get some water for the men." One of the guys from the other company had been out to the creek that day before his bayonet hacking away at the ice. His helmet was lying there now with a hole dead center lying there now with a hole dead center from a 50 caliber. Some other fellow saw what happened. "Oh yeah," the other fellow says, "a P-47 came down and was strafing and hit him. He was a kid from company. Killed him instantly," Babe says. "Geez, one of our own planes. Friendly fire." In spite of the danger, we got to have water, so Babe decides to go. Creek's maybe 200 yards away. All the time he's in the open. He's glancing into the woods, and we're listening up into the sky, nervous at what we all know is out there, but can't be seen as yet. He's near where that helmet is because it's the only place to go, and fills the jerry can quick, and shuffles through the snow lickety-split back to us in the woods. Bill hollers in a whisper, "Come on up, guys, one at a time. Fill your canteens." That's a strategy. You couldn't line up in a bunch. If a shell came in, it'd wipe out the whole group. So the fellas got up one by one, got their water. Now, I'm near the end, and I come up holding my canteen. They turn over the jerry can into the container, and Babe says, "Goddamn, Bill, look at this." And Bill said, "Aw, Jesus." And he's looking at the last little bit of water in the can. They can only see the state of affairs for what it is. Now the jerry can's nearly empty. It's got pieces of the kid's brains floating in the water. Kid killed by the P-47. Babe says to Bill, "What do you want me to do? All our canteens are full of this stuff." Bill's like, "You gonna drink yours?" Babe turns behind to the guys and hisses, "Throw your goddamn water purification pills in your canteens." So that's what we drank. Now you see, it was back to the sunlight on the balcony, and I tried forming my questions again in front of Major Winters, although my voice had a clear-cut crack in it now. I just don't rightly know how I'm going to explain all this back home. Things I've done, things I've seen. I swallowed hard again. Major's eyes glanced down at the table and focused on me again. "You're a hell of a fine soldier, Shifty. There's nothing you need to explain." I got to studying his words a moment. My chin became resolute. It was truly time for me to go. "Thank you, sir," I said, saluted. Major returned the salute, then, to my surprise, held out his hand like a man might to a friend. We shook. As I turned to go, I noticed the glass still rested on his desk. The water still looked cool and clear, through tiny beads of condensation had slipped from its sides and made the table the slightest bit wet, just like maybe the Major's eyes were, maybe not. The truck's motor idled with a growl. The driver slapped his hand against the side of the door. "Well, you the guy from Easy Company? Get in. Gotta get a move on." 3 other men lounged in the bed of the truck. The other lucky lottery winners from dog, fox, and headquarters companies. I didn't recognize them further than that. Kid from F Company offered me a hand climbing up, and the truck began to roll. It was LMZ, Easy Company, K rations, sleeping on the ground. The war was all behind me now. I regretted not getting a chance to say goodbye to my good buddy Earl McClung. He thought he had died and gone to heaven in Austria, and was seldom around. His job was to hunt stag and chamois, those little goats with the hooked horns, so we had something to feed ourselves and the prisoners. Mostly, we stayed up in the hills around town, camped out. We saw McClung maybe once or twice a week. I'd write him a long letter once I got stateside. Where are you heading, Jack? Kid from D Company asked me. He had sandy hair, long legs that stretched in front of him. I wondered if he played basketball before the war, just like me. Clinch Cove, Virginia. Little coal mining town in the southwest corner of the state. You? Other side of the country. Got a girl there. Gonna get married soon. It's all home now. We grinned. Truck picked up speed. The wind whistled past our ears. Truck was taking us to headquarters so we could clear up our paperwork. From there, it was a straight shot to the coast and a boat ride home. American GI car pulled in tight behind us. It looked like it might pass on the curvy road. Honked. Glare echoed off the mountain rock. I craned my neck up over the top of our truck and glimpsed another GI truck heading toward us as it rounded a curve. The driver must have been searching for something because he was inching across the center line. Maybe he was drunk. Get any good souvenirs? Asked the kid from D Company. Me, I got some. Don't remember no fuss. Don't remember no sound of metal against metal. Just remember flying ragdoll style over the top of our truck with his car horn going off behind us, echoing. You know, bouncing off those rock walls. My wrist hit the middle of the road first and broke like someone snaps a twig while walking through the forest. My pelvis hit the black top next. Something inside me rattled and busted like a rock hitting a window pane. My head hit the pavement last, and I skidded along, still with the mindset to wish the car behind wouldn't run me over. All was black and blue for a moment. I fought to come back. My mind returned, and rubber tires were squealing. Gravel was flying, striking my arms and chest like we was under fire. I saw the mashed-up cab of our truck from my periphery. That other truck was crunched into us head-on. Steam, smoke gushed up, motors were rammed into each other's cab. I propped myself up, trying to scramble out of the way, but my arm buckled, my insides jumbled, and I scrunched my eyes and tried not to holler at the pain. A woman bent over me, you know. She wore a long gray coat dress, and her hat bore a tiny crimson cross. Don't know how much time had passed. You know, the side of the road looked closer now, and she was flicking the seal of a morphine cigarette, getting ready to stick my leg. Kid from D Company lay a few feet away. Kid going home to his girl. Sandy hair was matted red now, long legs motionless, his complexion colorless, with the medic pulled a blanket over top of his face. The drug hit, and everything got swirly. Thought about heading in for my mother's homemade chocolate pie. So creamy and good. I was there sitting in our kitchen again. Mama wore a Sunday dress with the best apron tied behind her. She was telling me to stay at the table and have seconds on dessert. Don't worry about me, Mama. I said, my name's Sergeant Darrell C. Powers, and I won General Taylor's lottery. I'm coming home soon, Mama. I'm really coming home soon. And there you go. I want to thank Marcus Brotherton, beautiful. Yeah, thank you for inviting me to read this and participate. Yeah, it's really moving. Uh, I I hope it's like to prepare to really hear into those stories. Remarkable. Uh, Miss Shifty. Yeah, I miss him.